Welcome to Hospitality Stone. I'm your host, Phil Cooper, founder of High Minded Events. This is a podcast where cannabis culture meets luxury event design, and we explore the emerging world of cannabis hospitality. Today on Hospitality Stone, we're joined by Edgar Ramon, a leader in cannabis hospitality and a seasoned financial professional with more than 25 years of experience in finance and emerging markets. Edgar is a co-founder and CEO of Fields Cannary, an innovative company that's completely reimagining how people experience cannabis. A groundbreaking concept that brings cultivation, processing, retail, dining, lounges, and events all together in one immersive destination. Think winery or brewery, but for cannabis. It's a place built on connection, culture, and elevated experiences. Let's dive into this conversation about building the future of cannabis hospitality, one cannery at a time. Well, Edgar, thanks so much for being here today. You and I actually met back in 2020, right before the pandemic. I don't know if you remember this meal, but the city was shutting down, but you still went ahead with this infused dinner. At the time, you had Chamba Life, which was a infused kind of dining club experience, there was, I think there's maybe 6 or 7 of us that showed up that night. It was a beautiful meal. But again, it was at the beginning of the pandemic. So kind of an odd experience just because, everybody wasn't sure what was happening. Yeah. But I'm curious, with Chamba Life, when did you start Chamba Life and why did you start it?
So we started it in 2019, probably about halfway through 2019. And yes, I remember that dinner. We talk about it all the time because the world literally changed the very next day. So launching a hospitality business right before that, obviously it was challenging to begin with. And then now you get faced with something that the world's never seen, the pandemic. So we started it because we were really looking. I came from the finance world, and after leaving that, I wanted to do something unique, something that's probably still considered an emerging type of industry. And cannabis that's what it was at the time, right? We even had pre-rec legalization in Illinois in 2019. So we were really kind of gearing up for that recreational license to pass. And we started really looking at the license world, but here in Illinois, it was extremely difficult. I mean, there was a lot of challenges, from capital to who gets the licenses, and I think to this day they're still challenged with some of those things as well. So we looked into and we said, well, what's not being done in the cannabis industry? Where are there gaps that probably could be filled? Especially with this explosive growth of use and legalization. And my wife, a business partner as well, has a strong hospitality background. So we just said, okay, how do we mix these, this hospitality and this need for kind of, cannabis use in a more normal way. We love traveling, we love dining out, we love arts and shows and musicals. So we just thought, hey, okay, this could be something. And we really kind of were trying to mirror it off of some of the things we've already been doing, like So Far Sounds type of music performances here in Chicago. We thought, well, if those are successful, maybe we can kind of somehow mix that in, but include the cannabis use in there. So that was the goal behind it.
Now, you continued Chamba Life doing the dinners, I want to say probably through 2022 or?
Yeah, I think it was about late 22. Yep.
And then you decided to sell.
Yep.
Why did you decide to sell it?
We wanted to expand into the license world still. So we still had interest in getting into, because it's a non-licensed business model. And even though the state of Illinois had talked a lot about passing event license and consumption licenses and all that, I mean, of course, COVID set that back.
Yeah.
But then again, they had their challenges with all of the other licenses that it wasn't at their, top of their priority list. So we just started kind of exploring where can we see other opportunities. And we worked with a lot of different chefs. At the time, we probably had, and we're still in touch with a lot of these chefs, probably 20 different chefs that we worked with. We became really close with some of them. friendly. They would travel with us to other states. But one of the chefs he expressed interest and he wanted to explore more of an entrepreneurial type of lifestyle. And he's the one that took over the business.
So we've done some infused dinners with High
Mm-hmm.
Minded, and and I don't do more of them because I'm not a chef.
Right,
I mean,
right.
I think it's I think the restaurant industry is hard enough to make, money. And so, um, for me to do that, plus, bring in a chef and try to get everybody paid, I just, it's a challenge for us
Yeah.
to make that work. So that's why for us it's really just kind of that production and staffing. That's our focus. Well, I didn't mention we do have a little mocktail here today. So this is the Senorita Margarita. It's actually a hemp derived beverage, not the dispensary grade, but it's just a 5 milligram can that is put between these two glasses. So it's just a small 2.5 milligram dose. So cheers.
Cheers. Yeah. Thank you. Looking forward to this.
You sold Chamba Life, and now these days you are actually in the middle of a build out for your newest venture called Fields Cannary in Muskegon, Michigan. Now, can you go ahead and give our viewers an overview of kind of what the cannery is and what it's going to be?
Yeah. So in similar fashion, we just decided to jump in with both feet and like really try to pull something off that I don't think that I'm not aware of anything like it that exists anywhere. Maybe the closest might be a place in Amsterdam called the Bulldog, but give you a little background to start, make it easier to kind of grasp what it is. The word cannery was thought up by us by trying to mirror what a brewery or a winery or a distillery are to their industry, right? But for the herb lover, we had thought, why doesn't this exist? So I got introduced to the Michigan market by one of my business partners and now a dear friend. And when I got to Michigan, we just started recognizing and noticed that there sure is a lot of weed being grown and a lot of being sold. There's a ton of pop-ups. Unlike Illinois, they don't have caps on licenses. So if you've got if you've got the means to open up a business, it's fairly straightforward and easy to get your license and get up and operating, which has its own challenges. So we said, well, since there's so many, so it's so competitive, potentially so saturated, what can we do that's different? And again, we went back to our kind of hospitality background and said, well, why isn't there something that's the equivalent of a brewery or a winery? The light bulb actually went off when we were sitting at a winery, and my business partner doesn't really consume alcohol. So we were just like, wouldn't it be great if we can just light up right here? And then the light bulb went off. We're like, okay, there should be something that allows you to do that. So our cannery model exists of 5 different licenses that'll come in different phases. Our phase 1, we will have both our restaurant and bar opened up. So we also have a liquor license, which is unprecedented, right?
Yeah,
that was another challenge. We bought the property. First of all, we bought the property pre-zoned for cannabis. So we took a little risk there. We were able to get the property fully zoned for 5 different licenses, which again range from cultivation, processing, retail, consumption lounge, and events. Those are the 5 cannabis licenses that we have.
And do you need the processing to be able to do infusion and stuff? Is that
Yes, yeah. So the processing license will allow us to make anything from drinks to edibles and vapes, and then what we really see being our niche will be desserts, right? Especially for dinner and celebrations, whether it be weddings or birthday parties, right? Things of that nature. It'd be hard to find a licensed processor that would make kind of single serving type sizes of anything if they're not doing it in mass scale, right? They're just doing it for us probably isn't a smart business model for them. So we wanted that processing license. Then again, we went one step further and we went out and got the liquor license. So that was a little bit harder. They're capped in the city of Muskegon and they were all sold out. So people hold on to them, kind of like the old taxi medallions, like nobody wants to get rid of them.
Well, because I remember in our conversation, I feel like the city though was pretty open to your concept and like pretty supportive
I've had the pleasure of getting to know our mayor on a very close basis. We become friends, and we've actually smoked weed together.
Nice.
So yes, he's very forward thinking with all of this, and they've been very team Fields for us from kind of day one. So we got the zoning, we were able to get the approval, and now own the liquor license. So our bar restaurant will be a full service bar restaurant with liquor sales. And then we have our adjacent to it, we have our dispensary, we have our consumption lounge, we have a gift shop, then we have the outdoor space. It's a total of 4 acres, so we'll utilize that for events, small music performances, and then phase two will be the production facility. We'll build a greenhouse where we'll then grow and process the cannabis and fulfill the farm to table model that we're trying to accomplish.
Is that kind of your last phase, or is that do you have to do that right away so you have products to
Uh,
actually infuse into your foods?
my mind, there's probably never a last phase,
Oh
right?
yeah,
There
yeah,
could
right.
always be lodging or something else. Certainly want to have proof of concept with this location.
Yeah,
That way we can start looking at other markets, whether within Michigan or other states.
yeah. Now, so of your licenses, like how many like come from the city? How many from the state? Was the process complicated for both those areas, or was just the state of Michigan and Muskegon?
It's both. So you get the same. You go through similar processes to get your license at the state level, and then get your license at the municipality level. So you have two applications you're turning in. You're going to two review processes. They basically both want to see the same information from you, whether it be background checks or bank statements, financials, things of that nature. And then you get your pre-qualification license, which means they pre-approved you. They've given them your stamp of approval. The next step is that once we are ready to open, they come and do a final inspection of the property, make sure we've got security handled correctly, ventilation, those types of things. And once they say yes, your construction is meets all the requirements, they give you your final license.
You and your wife Joanne, you actually were Chicago. You lived in Chicago and
Yeah.
Illinois for many years. You raised a family here,
Born and
right?
raised. Yeah.
Um, so why didn't you do it here in Illinois?
Well, as I kind of mentioned earlier, the struggles were that Illinois wasn't really well, a few reasons. I don't know that if even they had their consumption lounge licenses running at the time or event licenses, that they would have allowed us to have the 5 licenses that we have and then the liquor license that we have. In fact, I don't know of many municipalities that would have allowed that to happen for us. So we're really thankful to Muskegon for, again, being that forward thinking with this. Then the Illinois market is just, I don't know, again, a little bit more challenging in terms of, the competitiveness is different in that there's a lot of control by a handful of larger companies. So you're going to face those challenges. Um, and then lastly, expense wise, right? It's a lot more expensive to build what we're building in Chicago, especially in
Yeah.
kind of proper Chicago versus it is in Muskegon, Michigan. So we saw this opportunity to get and take advantage of this 4 acre property right off of a main highway. And Michigan, at least West Michigan, because I'm not that familiar with East Michigan, but West Michigan is beautiful. I mean,
Yeah.
there's beautiful hiking trails, beautiful beaches, so we can take advantage of the natural environment that Michigan has to offer, and pair that with what we're doing at the restaurant and in the lounge and the event space.
Yeah, and that side of the state, I mean, there's a lot of tourism, right? I mean, like that whole coast is so beautiful from Saugatuck up to Traverse City and even north of
Absolutely.
there. So I feel like you have a lot of people kind of passing through and
Absolutely. We did an impact report to kind of just, to make sure that we would get the foot traffic that we need to get. And, if you're within the Muskegon County area, you're only roughly about 180,000 people. But then when you start branching off to roughly Grand Rapids area, that grows to about 1 million people.
yeah.
Heading down towards like Holland, which is about 30 miles away, and then just north of us to like Ludington area. But then you bring in another 1.5 million tourists to just Muskegon every single summer. I mean, they come in for Bike Time Fest, Burning Foot Beer Festival. We just had one of the largest West Michigan Pride festivals this past weekend. I mean, there are so much, and there's so much to offer that, yeah, there's a lot of tourism. And we're off of Highway 31, which is the main highway that heads up to Traverse City.
Yeah.
You got Electric Forest, which is a world-renowned, EDM fest that takes place every year, 25 miles from our door. Um, Recent pub pedal, thousands of people on bicycles going to different bars. So there is a lot to offer in terms of tourism and hospitality.
Well, and I think what's neat about your concept, since it will have cannabis, but then you also have that liquor license, you're really not excluding anyone, right? I mean, because I feel like, you have groups of friends, and like, oh, out of the five of us, three of us are, cannabis consumers, and the couple like don't like it, but we all want to go out to dinner together, right? And
Yeah.
so to be able to go to an establishment where you really do cater to everyone, is exciting.
Anyone above the age of 21.
Right.
So by design, we're going to make it so that the whole property is 21 and older.
So I can't book my next bar mitzvah there. Or...
Nope. Not unless there's a major change in federal legalization on a lot of different fronts. So no, we're leaving it as 21 and older. But you're right, we can cater to anyone, and then we also plan on doing different entertainment as well. So from music to plays and art shows, right? So anything we can possibly do to kind of cater to different people's palates, and take advantage again of what Michigan has to offer. So we can do collaborations with other companies that are doing river rafting or doing hiking, and start or end by us, things of that nature. So yeah, we're excited to be able to offer something to just about anyone over the age of 21.
Awesome. Now, on your website, you describe the cannery as kind of a seed to experience establishment. I know you've talked about it a bit, but can you kind of expand on that?
Yeah. So you always heard the term seed to sale and vertically integrated, right? So we said, well, we're actually one step further. We're seed to enjoyment, where again, when all phases are completed, we will grow it on site, right? So you can actually witness and see the building of where these plants are being grown. We'll have video inside of our restaurants and lounges, and showing where the plants are, what stage they're in, and seeing the employees taking care of them and everything. But then we package it there or process it there, and then be able to sell it to you there. And then you can enjoy it there. By design, our restaurant, again, because it's not just for cannabis consumers, our restaurant won't have combustible consumption, so no smoking in the restaurant. I mean, I'm a smoker. I don't want to eat my dinner amongst a big cloud of smoke. But you can walk less than 50 feet away into the consumption lounge and smoke as you're waiting for your entree to come out or your dessert to come out. What we can do, because Michigan and the city of Muskegon allows delivery, we can sell prepackaged infused goods. So for instance, if we were manufacturing our own infused sriracha sauce, right? You can purchase that from our dispensary. We can deliver it to your table, and then you can open it and put it on your food directly. We won't be able to do infused food in the kitchen for the risk of cross-contamination at the food safety service levels. So they just don't want us to cook they don't want us infusing cannabis in our kitchen where we're also making non-cannabis infused food. The only way we'd be able to do that, and I don't know that we would or not, but there's a possibility that if somebody does a full buyout of our property and we're close to the walk-in public, then you can do that. But you also then have to go through like a pretty elaborate disinfecting and cleaning process afterwards and all that. So if we have phase 2 open with our processing lab and kitchen, then we can make those things there. And if we get enough heads up notice, like our wedding is in 6 months, then we can prepare for that accordingly. If somebody wants an infused cake or wants an infused dessert to take home, we can then do it that way.
So since you have all of this happening in the one space, alcohol and cannabis consumption, so what's your kind of like training process going to be like for your staff members, like to help to make sure that people don't crossfade, or how to address things like that?
Yeah, so that's a good point. We there's a lot of people that are offering various classes out on that, how to kind of recognize overconsumption. Honestly, from my point, and I've been to a lot of cannabis events, not just as a owner of a company hosting them, but also just attending them. But I've you typically notice more kind of overconsumption on the alcohol side,
Yeah.
right? There's the old sloppy drunk, right?
Yep.
We don't see that a whole lot on the cannabis side. But what does happen today is that um, it's happening, right? People are drinking and consuming cannabis at the exact same time.
Yep.
The difference between our establishment and how they're doing it now is they're sneaking one or the other. So if you're in a bar and you want to go get high, you step outside and smoke. Well, the staff has no idea what that person was doing out there. Were
Yep.
they dabbing? Were they smoking? Did they take an edible? They have no clue, right? So then they're back inside, and all of a sudden, you're noticing that they may have been overserved. You don't know what they were overserved. In our location, you can't prevent everything. Somebody can sneak something in, but if they purchased a pre-roll, they purchased a shot, they had a glass of wine. So our staff's going to be trained to kind of be able to not only recognize whether there is someone that seems to be overserved, but we can also then have a quick database and look up, okay, what has that person purchased? Or, if they're with a group of people, what has the group purchased, et cetera, so that they're not sneaking off someplace doing something that we don't know what they're doing. We kind of know what they've probably purchased and have an idea of what they may have consumed and what's happening. So we'll make sure that all of our employees, right, not just the security, but all of our employees are trained on how to recognize these. And as I said earlier, my wife has a strong hospitality background where she's done everything from bartending to management positions. So she's got that background as well to be able to help with making sure that the employees are up to speed on what to look for.
Now, with your liquor license, now will it be like a full bar, or will it be limited to like beer and wine?
No, full bar. Yeah,
Oh,
full
awesome.
bar. Yeah.
So then, as far as like infused products and stuff like that, are you going to try to kind of limit the dosages that are offered, or?
It's an interesting. We're first of its kind, right?
Right.
So there are no manuals, handbooks
Yep.
out there on
Yep.
what to do. So it'll be a learning
Yep.
process, and right, the more we do, the more guests we have, the better we'll learn. From that, we'll have similar type of waivers that we've had in the past,
Okay.
but technology is also getting better so that you can find products that are low dosed. You can find products that are not even micro dosed, nano dosed.
What I like, even fast acting,
Fast acting,
right? I mean,
correct?
because
Yes,
that's
yes,
part of it.
right.
I feel like that tends to be the problem with some people, is that they consume and they're like, I don't feel it now. And now they start, pounding drinks, and then all of a sudden, then it hits them. They're like,
Yeah,
oh, I don't
yeah.
feel funny. And
We all have that story, whether it was ourselves or it was a friend. We have that story of like, took an edible, didn't feel anything, took another one, still didn't feel anything, took another one, and bam,
yeah,
lost 8 hours of my life. So yeah, so the fast acting technology, drinks. There's a technology out there that can dispense cannabinoids by milligrams. So you can pick different cartridges and say, I'll take 2 milligrams of THC and 1 milligram of CBD and make it in a watermelon seltzer, concoction.
now, I mean, as you know, restaurants and bars, even here in Illinois, all over the country, are kind of leaning into hemp as this kind of like bridge, or like way to offer cannabis in a non or to offer an option for non-drinkers, or people who like cannabis in a regular bar. Will you be leaning into that at all?
Yeah, 100%. Multiple reasons. One is, as you said, right, they're becoming very popular.
Yep.
So you're seeing them sold in big retailers, right, big liquor store retailers and otherwise. They've popped up and have just exploded. But there's something, kind of, people can feel, they're socializing when they have a drink in their hand, right? It's common to have a drink in their hand.
Feels natural.
Feels natural.
At a wedding, at any type of event. That's what I tell the couples who book with us. They're like, "Oh, we want an edibles bar." I'm like, "You should really go to beverage."
Yes.
It just you're part of the experience. It's not one and done.
Correct.
You get to walk around with it.
You can sip this. You can cheers with it.
You can have your picture taken, and not feel like I'm a high school principal and now I'm holding a joint.
Right.
Where's that photo going to go? Right.
Yeah. There's so many reasons behind, I think, why they become popular. So yes, we'll have in our consumption lounge, we'll have a mocktail bar there. So we can make drinks. People can purchase the drinks out of the retail. But I also like, and I get why most of these are seltzer-based drinks, right? They are delicious. They can be, but you also have to have a shelf life for them. So if we're doing more of single serving type of offerings, and again, we've got our processing lab and capabilities, we can make things so that they don't have to be can based, right? We can make fresh juiced infused drinks. We can make smoothies, right? Things of that nature. But holding a drink in your hand is a common way of socializing. So we knew from day one we were going to have that offering.
So I think one of the things that's going to make your venue so special is that, it does have such a strong food and beverage component, right? Yeah. Do you, in your opinion, do you think it's possible for a cannabis hospitality establishment to be successful without that component of food and beverage sales?
Yeah. My opinion is no.
Yeah.
My opinion is that, it's not a sought after experience right now, right? Yep. To just go to a place where you can freely or legally smoke with no other offering, right? Food, beverage, or entertainment or other things just isn't a sought after. You might as well stay home, right?
Yeah.
So you can smoke at home and then go out and get your food and beverage. So I hope that changes. I know that states have been struggling with it, going back and forth as to whether they should allow it or not. But a good example is that a lounge out in Nevada opened and a year later closed because Nevada laws don't allow food and beverage and other items as well. So they didn't make it. But there are states that are looking at this and saying, hey, Michigan looked at it, the liquor commissioner's exact words were, the writing's on the wall, it's a 21 and older product, right? Why shouldn't they, if this is what they choose to do, meaning our guests.
Right. There is personal responsibility. Like you mentioned waivers. To me, I think that's, do I sign a waiver when I walk into a bar? No. We tell our staff, we're at events. The best way to address overconsumption is to prevent overconsumption. And so it's really just, asking questions to the people who are in front of you. Like, do you consume? What do you consume? How often do you consume? How much do you consume? But
I'll tell you, there's also a line where you have to be a little cautious about crossing, because the more you do waivers, asking questions, limiting people's purchases, it's almost like you're saying, like your sign out on the gate that says "Beware my dog." It's like you're telling people my dog is mean.
Yeah.
Right. So you're almost telling people that, hey, you might have a bad experience. So, even our insurance specialists are always like, yeah, you should do something, but don't do too much.
So that's because I know for us, insurance is a challenge. Yeah. We got to a point where people won't even quote us. How have you?
We're taking advantage of having kind of an umbrella policy, so that they're insuring our restaurant, our retail, the lounge, event space, right? So they're getting multiple coverage from us. That I guess makes it, financially feasible for them to do it. I think if you were just a lounge and that's all you were doing was having people come in and consume, insurance company might be like, well, your premium is going to be really high, or we don't even want to touch it because, right, it's just not worth it to us. We can only charge you so much before we run you out of business. But since we're going to have eventually 8 companies, they're going to have some type of insurance need, whether it be simply liability on the real estate itself, or or employee insurance, right? Things of that nature. So the umbrella package kind of helps us mitigate that a bit.
Um, so in the kind of the same question about like food and beverage sales for a successful business, you'll also have the dispensary and your own kind of grow. In your opinion, do you think a consumption, space can be a bring your own cannabis type space, or do you really think it's got to have that cannabis sales to be successful?
I think some kind of sales has to be allowed. There's the argument that if you have to get out of your seat and go to the dispensary and buy it and then come back to your seat, that could be a challenge. And I get it, right? Sure, it's got a little inconvenience, right? It'd be like you're at your seat and you have to go to the liquor store, buy the liquor, bring it back, and consume it. Um, but it is a doable model, and there's several that are doing it now where it's a lounge connected to a dispensary. Not having food and beverage hurts a lot more, in my opinion, than not having the dispensary attached to it.
Yeah.
But they're close. They're close though, because um, you fulfill that overall experience by being able to purchase it right there versus having to leave and go get it. So like a winery, right? You'll even pay a little more for that bottle of wine because you're there, you're speaking with the grower, the farmer, you're inspired by the grapes that were chosen, by the story behind it. So you'll pay even a little bit extra because it's there for you to enjoy at your table. And pairing it with something else, food, entertainment, right? That the overall experience, their value adds to each other. So I do think that the more you can offer, the better they're going to be. Again, a room to just bring in, a daily fee to come in and smoke. I don't see how how that would work.
Will you do device rental or anything like that, or will that be just kind of a complimentary?
Complimentary. Yeah, we thought about having people, having little lockers where people can keep their own devices,
Kind of like
like at a cigar shop.
Yeah, like humidors.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and I don't think it's a bad model, but once again, there's not a proof of concept out there that it would be successful.
So, I mean, I know you came from the finance world. So how what kind of challenges have you faced trying to raise capital for this project? Have people been receptive?
Um, it's a challenge, as you know, right? I mean, this industry is a challenge. Doesn't matter what state you're in, what part of the industry you're in, production down to ancillary services. It is a challenge. I think coming from the finance world made it a little easier for me, having a background on how to raise money, at least how to create the information that a investor would want to see, was very beneficial. I think a lot of people that got into the industry to start didn't have that background, and it made it a lot challenging for them. So that they just couldn't explain how the investor was going to see a return. And then what also hurt was that the industry was, it was the green boom. It was, people thought, okay, it's cannabis, it's going to sell, it's going to fly off the shelves. It was easy to raise money back in the day.
Yep.
And when these companies then started underperforming, it scared a lot of investors. And then, like wildfire, I mean, information like that just spreads quickly. So it made it challenging, but our uniqueness, though, we were able to attract investors. We were able to even just as recently close on a loan deal with a bank, not a non-bank, which is key in terms of the terms we're getting, much more favorable terms. But I think one of the things that helped a lot was I stopped presenting or describing ourselves as a cannabis company and started describing ourselves and presenting ourselves as a hospitality company, a destination spot. I've used this in the past where it'd be like trying
semantics matter.
It is. I mean, and using the word cannabis, there's always going to be an eyebrow raised, at some point in the conversation. And we're really not. We really are a hospitality company that offers cannabis as one of our services. But it'd be like, saying that Top Golf is a golf company, right? They are far more than that. Again, you can have a birthday party there. You got food and beverages, and it's just golf is just another one of their offerings. So that's how I looked at it, and I think that was helpful because they're able to see the income stream diversification between food and beverages, cannabis sales, events, ticket sales events, right? Things of that nature. So.
Um, well, I personally am very excited to see Fields Cannery open. I think it is innovative, and I think it's really going to um, fill a space and be a model for hospitality and cannabis across the country. I wish you and Joanne the most success with it. Is there any, before we leave today, is there any advice you can give any of our viewers who may want to explore getting into their own hospitality venture?
Yeah. Well, first, thank you for having me here, but also thank you for being supportive from even back in the pandemic days,
Oh yeah,
Chambo Life we talked about. I think you attended 2 or 3 dinners
yeah,
with
yeah,
us. Yeah. And we've been to your events as well. And we learned a lot from what you offer. And I think we've become friends over these years as well.
yeah.
So thank you. Um, my advice would be that don't give up on your dreams. I mean, this is a challenging industry, but there aren't many industries out there that aren't. But the hospitality one is certainly a known one. So you're competing with someone's favorite restaurant already, someone's favorite watering hole, right? You need to try to convince them to leave the place that they're already comfortable with to come to yours. So you have to always be keeping it, unique and updated and offering, different entertainment. Reason for them to come to you, whether
Yeah.
that be on a Tuesday night or a Saturday night, right?
And I think also just I've seen renderings, right? I mean, and it's a well-designed space. I think design matters when it comes to hospitality, and it has to be a place where people want to be and hang out.
Well, and back to your point about, are these, what are some of the challenges they're faced? So it's not just with not being able to offer food and beverage or cannabis sales, it's the space itself, right? Is a literally like just a room, like a box with some chairs or couches that you go to? That's not much different than we were doing in high school at our
Yeah,
at our houses,
yeah,
right? So it has to be a space that's welcoming. We came up with the name of Fields Cannery. Fields coming from our love for plants. So there'll be a focal point of plants throughout our entire facility. Our flower shop will sell traditional flowers, not cannabis flower, traditional flowers. Also act somewhat of like our main entry point for when people come in, and we can determine whether they got dinner reservations or they're coming to the lounge or going into the retail. And then the outdoor space, utilizing again vegetation, bringing the property back to 2/3 for the birds. So native plants, little garden ways, walkways that you can go through and find an area to sit and enjoy a picnic basket with a paired pre-roll or something like that. So yes, the space has to be very welcoming. And it's Michigan also, which Michigan, like Illinois, is also very big into sports. So we got to have TVs. Joanne really didn't want TVs, but you got to have TVs. You got to be able to play the big game here and there. So some outdoor pool tables. I think we're going to put a bocce court in just to keep people entertained, right?
Well, and what's great, I think, too, I think even from just like an event venue, right? I mean, like when you have all those kind of amenities built there, it just adds so much value into this space, and you can accommodate so many different crowds. And I think that's one of the things I'm excited about is being able to produce some events at your space.
If you get the space that's already welcoming to the eye, right, it makes it a lot easier for somebody to make a decision and say, yes, this is where I want to host my big celebration, because you don't have to do a whole lot of work to try to convert it into what they want it to look like. It hopefully already is.
And then finally, and I know you don't want to put a date on it because it's very hard, right?
Yeah,
As
yeah,
I've learned the last few years, trying to pick a date in the cannabis
yeah.
industry to launch something is very challenging. But ideally, when do you anticipate opening?
If things work perfect and we're not in the perfect world by any stretch of the imagination, we could be open before the holiday season this year.
Awesome.
Which would be great because we can start catering to some potential holiday parties. And we get asked all the time, will you be open for this holiday? But if not, there's construction happening every day. So every day we get one day closer to it. So we're just pushing as hard as we can to get open as quickly as we can. We ran into hurdles. Construction has a lot of hurdles. Our roof collapsed. We had to go back to the drawing board, kind of scrap everything we did for a year plus time, and kind of start over again. It worked out in our benefit because we designed the space a little bit better. But there's always something, there's always a curveball waiting to be thrown at you. Fingers crossed, we make the holiday season. If not, it'll be shortly thereafter.
Well, you and Joanne are two very passionate and smart people. So I, have confidence that you're going to be close to your date. And
if it was up to us, we'd be open next week. We're relying on contractors and equipment that may or may not be made in the U.S., so those could be delayed. But yeah, if it was up to us, we'd be open.
Well, hopefully, come this holiday season, we will be joining you at Fields Cannary. So
can't wait.
Thanks so much for joining us today, Edgar.
Thank you, Phil.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in to Hospitality Stone. It's been a pleasure sharing stories and insights from the world of cannabis hospitality with you. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to follow and rate this podcast so you never miss an update. New episodes drop monthly, so stay connected by signing up for our email newsletter and following us on Instagram at High-Minded Events. Together, let's continue redefining events and elevating experiences. Until next time, stay curious, stay inspired, and stay Hospitality Stone.